Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the stars drift past the main view screen like scattered diamonds on black velvet. She had made this journey 17 times before. But the beauty of deep space never failed to move her heart in ways she could not explain to anyone who had never left Earth behind. The Defiance was not a warship or an explorer vessel. She was a cargo hauler, a working ship with dented hull plates and engines that wheezed like an old man climbing stairs. But Elena loved her the way a farmer loves good land. Because this ship had never let her down when the void tried to kill them. All today, they carried 300 colonists in cryosleep, bound for the distant world of Kepler 442b, where humanity would plant another flag in the endless dark. They also carried medical supplies, farming equipment, and enough hope to fill a planet twice that size. "Commander, we have a problem," said Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka from the navigation console. Her voice was calm, but Elena could hear the tension. Beneath the surface, like a river running under ice, Elena walked to the navigation station and looked at the sensor display. What she saw made her blood turn cold in her veins. A Class 7 ion storm filled the screen, a swirling monster of electromagnetic fury that stretched across 3 million kilometers of space. It was beautiful in the way that hurricanes and forest fires were beautiful. A reminder that nature could create destruction and art at the same time. That was not there 6 hours ago. Elena said it formed rapidly from solar-wind interactions with the local magnetic field. Yuki replied, "The science team says these things can appear without warning in this sector." Ambassador Thesson of the Valory Collective stepped forward from the observation area. He was tall and thin, with silver skin that shimmered like moonlight on water. His people had traveled to stars for 10,000 years before humans had learned to make fire. And they never let anyone forget that fact, Commander Vasquez. "I must advise immediate course correction," Thesson said. His voice was soft but carried the weight of absolute certainty. A Class 7 storm is beyond the survival parameters of any known vessel. The mathematics are clear and undeniable. Elena did not respond right away. She was looking at something else on the sensor display, a small blinking light near the storm center that made her stomach clench with dread. "What is that signal?" she asked. Yuki's fingers danced across her console. "It is a distress beacon from Concord Research Station Theta 9. There are 42 scientists aboard, representing 6 different species. They were studying stellar phenomena when the storm formed around them. They are already dead," Thesson said flatly. "No rescue is possible. The Galactic Concord has already declared the mission statistically inadvisable. I received the communication 20 minutes ago." Elena turned to face the Valory ambassador. "Statistically inadvisable," she repeated. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means the probability of successful rescue is less than 1%, Thesson explained. "The Concord does not waste resources on missions with such low success rates. It is logical and efficient." Efficient. Elena said the word like it tasted bad in her mouth. The Kethri engineer Varric lumbered onto the bridge. He was massive, with 4 arms and skin like rough stone. His people were known throughout the galaxy as the finest engineers alive, capable of building machines that lasted for centuries. "I have heard the discussion," Varric rumbled. "The ambassador speaks truth. A Class 7 will destroy this vessel in minutes. The hull cannot withstand the electromagnetic pressure, and the radiation will kill all biological life within the hour." Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. Marcus Cole stood at the engineering station, a big man with kind eyes and hands that could fix anything ever built. Dr. Amir Hassan waited near the medical bay entrance, ready to help anyone who needed him. Communications Officer Sarah Chun sat at her console with headphones pressed to her ears, listening to the desperate voices calling for help from the dying station. "How long do they have?" Elena asked, The station's shields will fail in approximately 4 hours, Yuki answered. After that, the storm will tear them apart. 4 hours. 42 people. One impossible choice. Elena walked to the center of the bridge and stood beneath the main view screen where the storm raged in silence. She thought about her father, who had been a firefighter in snow polo. He had taught her that some things were more important than survival. That courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else mattered more, Commander. Thesson said. I must formally advise against any rescue attempt. The Valori Collective cannot support such an illogical action. Elena turned to face him. Ambassador, when your people were young, before you had starships and mathematics and probability calculations, what did you do when someone needed help? Thesson blinked his silver eyes. I do not understand the relevance of this question. I think you understand perfectly, Elena said. You just do not want to answer. She opened the ship-wide communication channel, and her voice echoed through every corridor and cabin of the Defiance. All hands, this is Commander Vasquez. We have received a distress signal from a research station trapped inside a Class 7 ion storm. I will not lie to you. The odds of survival are very low. Every rational calculation says we should turn away and save ourselves. She paused and took a deep breath. But I did not join the fleet to make rational calculations. I joined because I believe that humanity has something to offer the galaxy. Something that cannot be measured in probability percentages or efficiency ratings. We have heart. We have courage. We have the stubborn refusal to abandon people who need us. Elena looked at her crew. Marcus Cole was already checking his engineering tools. Yuki Tanaka had begun plotting a course into the storm. Dr. Hassan was preparing the medical bay for casualties. Sarah Chun was sending a response to the station, telling them help was coming. I am asking for volunteers, Elena continued. Anyone who wants to leave can take an escape pod and wait for pickup. I will not think less of you. But I'm going into that storm, and I'm bringing those people home. No one moved toward the escape pod. Thesson watched with something that might have been confusion or wonder on his alien face. You are all choosing death, he said quietly. Elena smiled at him. No, Ambassador. We are choosing to live in a way that matters. There is a difference. She turned back to the view screen where the storm waited like a hungry beast. Yuki, take us in. All hands, brace for the ride of your lives. The used Defiance turned toward the impossible and accelerated into the dark. The first wave of the storm hit the Defiance like a giant fist made of lightning and fury. The entire ship shook so hard that Elena had to grab her command chair to keep from falling. Lights flickered across the bridge and warning alarms screamed from every console. Shields holding at 73%. Marcus Cole shouted from the engineering station. His hands moved across the controls with the speed and confidence of a man who had fought 1,000 battles against the void. Stay on course, Elena commanded. Yuki, how far to the station? 40 minutes at current speed. But Commander, the storm is getting stronger the deeper we go. Ambassador Thesson had strapped himself into an observation seat. His silver face had turned pale, almost white, and his long fingers gripped the armrests so hard that Elena thought they might break. She had never seen a Valori show fear before. This is madness, he whispered. Pure madness. Elena ignored him. She had no time for doubt or despair. Every second counted, and every decision could mean life or death for everyone aboard. The second wave was worse than the first. An electromagnetic pulse swept through the ship and killed every secondary system in an instant. Emergency lights came on, casting the bridge in a dim red glow that made everyone look like ghosts. We have lost artificial gravity on decks 3 through 7, Sarah Chun reported. Multiple hull sensors are offline. I am switching to backup systems. Do it, Elena said. Marcus, can we restore power to the affected areas? Marcus shook his head. Not without taking the main reactor offline for at least an hour. We would be dead in space. Then we work without gravity. Tell the crew to use magnetic boots and handholds. Vorek, the Kethrai engineer, had been silent until now. He sat at a secondary console, watching the human crew work with 4 eyes that missed nothing. When he finally spoke, his deep voice carried a note of something Elena had never heard from his species before. Your people are remarkable, Vorek said. Any Kethrai crew would have abandoned this mission by now. Our calculations clearly show that survival is impossible. Elena looked at him. Then maybe your calculations are missing something. What could they be missing? Us, Elena said simply. They are missing us. Another wave struck the ship, and this time something broke. A terrible groaning sound echoed through the hull, and the deck tilted sharply to the left. Elena heard screaming from somewhere in the lower sections of the ship. Hull breach on deck 4, Marcus shouted. Emergency bulkheads are closing, but we have lost atmosphere in sections 12 through 15. Casualties? Elena asked, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her heart. Unknown. Communication with those sections is down. Dr. Hassan grabbed a medical kit and headed for the door. I am going down there. Take a security team, Elena ordered. And be careful, Amir. He nodded and disappeared into the red-lit corridor. Elena said a silent prayer for him and turned back to the view screen where the storm raged like an angry god. The colonists in cryosleep were protected by the deepest part of the ship, surrounded by layers of armor and shielding. But Elena knew that if the hull breaches continued, even they would not survive. She was gambling with 300 innocent lives, and the weight of that responsibility sat on her shoulders like a mountain. Commander, I am detecting a pattern in the storm, Yuki said suddenly. Her eyes were fixed on her console with intense concentration. The electromagnetic pulses are not random. They follow a cycle. Can you predict the next one? I think so. If I time our maneuvers to the gaps between pulses, we can reduce hull stress by at least 40%. Elena smiled for the first time since they entered the storm. Do it. Show me what human intuition can do. Yuki's hands became a blur across the navigation console. She flew the ship not by instruments alone, but by feeling, by instinct, by something that could not be programmed into any computer. The Defiance danced through the chaos like a leaf in a hurricane, somehow finding calm pockets that no sensor had detected. Ambassador Thesson watched with his mouth hanging open. How is she doing that? He asked. The computer shows no safe passages. Because the computer does not believe in safe passages, Elena replied. Yuki does. The minutes passed like hours. Each second brought new dangers and new miracles. A power coupling exploded, and Marcus Cole fixed it with nothing but tape and determination. The life support system failed, and Sarah Chun restored it by rerouting power through systems that were never designed to work. Together, Dr. Hassan returned to the bridge with blood on his uniform. We lost 2 crew members in the breach, he said quietly. Rodriguez and Kim. They were sealing a crack when the pressure blew. Elena closed her eyes for a moment. She had known both of them. Rodriguez had a wife waiting on Earth. Kim had just celebrated his 25th birthday last week. We will mourn them later, she said. Her voice cracked slightly but did not break. Right now we have a job to finish. 20 minutes to the station, Yuki announced. But Commander, the storm is reaching its peak. The next few minutes will be the worst we have faced. Can we make it? Yuki looked at her with eyes that held no doubt. We will make it. I refused to accept any other outcome. The storm seemed to hear her words and responded with rage. The final barrier between the Defiance and the station was a wall of pure electromagnetic fire. A curtain of destruction that should have been impossible to cross. All hands. Brace for impact, Elena announced over the ship-wide channel. This is going to hurt. The Defiance plunged into the fire, and everything became light and sound and fury. The hull screamed like a living thing in pain. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Somewhere in the chaos, Elena heard Thesson praying in his native language. Words she did not understand, but whose meaning was clear, and then, suddenly, silence, they emerged into the eye of the storm. A pocket of perfect calm surrounded by walls of destruction. Ahead of them, battered and broken but still intact, floated Concord Research Station Theta 9. "We made it," Sarah Chung whispered. "We actually made it." Elena stood up from her chair and looked at her crew. "These ordinary humans who had just done the impossible. Not yet," she said. "Now comes the hard part. Now we save those people and get everyone home." She headed for the airlock with determination burning in her heart like a star. The airlock hissed open, and Elena stepped onto Research Station Theta 9 with her rescue team close behind. The station was dark, except for the weak glow of emergency lights that flickered like dying candles. The air smelled wrong, a mixture of burnt circuits and fear that Elena had learned to recognize during her years in space. "Stay close," she ordered. "Watch your step and call out anything unusual." Marcus Cole carried a heavy toolkit on his back. Dr. Hassan had enough medical supplies for 50 patients. Two security officers named Jackson and Okonkwo followed with rescue equipment. Together they moved through the silent corridors, like ghosts searching for the living among the dead. The station had been beautiful once. Elena could see traces of elegant design in the curved walls and large observation windows. But the storm had turned it into a ruin. Debris floated in the zero gravity, pieces of equipment and personal belongings drifting like memories of better times. "Hello?" Elena called out. Her voice echoed through empty halls. "We are from the Earth vessel Defiance. We are here to help," silence answered her. Then, so faint she almost missed it, a tapping sound from somewhere ahead. "This way," she said. "Move." They found the first survivors behind a sealed blast door. 7 beings huddled together in a small laboratory, their eyes wide with disbelief when they saw human faces through the window. "Impossible," said a Dreth scientist. His crystalline body caught the emergency lights and scattered them into tiny rainbows. No one could have come through the storm. "The mathematics do not allow it." Elena smiled at him through the glass. "Mathematics does not know everything." "Stand back. We are coming in." Marcus Cole examined the door mechanism. "The power is dead. I will have to cut through." "How long?" 3 minutes. Make it 2. Marcus grinned and fired up his plasma cutter. Sparks flew in the darkness like orange stars being born while he worked. Elena spoke to the trapped scientists through the intercom. "How many survivors are there on the station?" The Dreth answered. His name was Veleth, and he was the senior researcher. 42 of us remain. We gathered in different sections when the shields began to fail. I do not know the exact condition of each group. We will find them all," Elena promised. "Just hold on a little longer." The door fell inward, and Dr. Hassan rushed through immediately. He moved from patient to patient, checking vital signs and treating injuries with quick efficiency. Most of the scientists were dehydrated and exhausted, but alive. "You came for us," a small Fenari researcher said. Her fur was matted and dirty, her voice cracked from thirst. "Why would you risk your lives for strangers?" Elena knelt beside her and offered water from her canteen. "Because you needed help. That is all the reason we need." The Fenari looked at her with huge eyes that held tears. The Galactic Concord said rescue was inadvisable. They told us to prepare for death. The Galactic Concord was wrong. They split into 2 teams. Elena took Marcus and Jackson to search the upper levels while Dr. Hassan, Okonkwo, and Veleth began evacuating the survivors to the Defiance. Time was their enemy now. The eye of the storm would not last forever. The upper levels were worse. Structural damage had collapsed entire corridors, and radiation warnings flashed on every wall. Elena pushed through anyway, climbing over debris and squeezing through gaps that seemed too small for a human body. "Commander, this is dangerous," Jackson said. "We should turn back. There are people up here," Elena replied. "I can feel it." Jackson did not argue. He had learned long ago that Elena Vasquez operated on instincts that defied explanation. They found another group in what had been the mess hall. 15 scientists from 3 different species, led by an elderly Valori named Desara, who reminded Elena strongly of Ambassador Thesson. "You are human," Desara said when she saw them. Her silver skin was scarred from radiation burns. "I did not believe humans capable of such courage." "Then you did not know many humans," Elena said. "Can you walk?" "Some of us can. Others are too injured to move. Then we carry them." "Marcus, help me with this one." They lifted an unconscious Kethri scientist between them. He was heavy, nearly 300 kilograms, but Elena refused to leave him behind. Her muscles screamed in protest as they made their way back through the ruined corridors, back on the Defiance. Ambassador Thesson watched the evacuation with something like wonder on his face. Human crew members carried alien scientists through the airlock, treating each one with gentle care regardless of species or origin. "I do not understand," he said to Vorik. "These beings are strangers. They have nothing to offer in return. Why do humans risk everything for them?" Vorak considered the question. "I have studied humans for many years," he said. "I believe I finally understand something important about them." "What is that?" "They do not calculate value the way we do. They do not ask what someone is worth before deciding to help. They simply help because the need exists. It is inefficient, illogical, and perhaps the most beautiful thing I have ever witnessed." Elena returned with the last group of survivors. She was exhausted, covered in grime and sweat, her uniform torn in several places. But she was smiling. "That is everyone," she announced. 42 scientists, all accounted for. Dr. Hassan met her at the airlock. "We have 3 critical cases and a dozen with serious injuries. But I think everyone will survive." "Good work, Amir." Yuki's voice came over the intercom. "Commander, we have a problem. The eye is collapsing faster than predicted. We have maybe 12 minutes before the storm closes in around us." Elena felt her heart sink. 12 minutes was not enough time. The Defiance was damaged, overloaded with passengers, and running on emergency power. "Can we make it?" she asked. There was a long pause before Yuki answered. "Honestly, I do not know. The odds are bad." Elena looked around at the faces watching her. Human and alien, crew and survivors, all of them waiting for her to do something, to save them somehow. "Bad odds are still odds," she said. "Get us ready to fly. We are going home." She headed for the bridge with determination in every step. Behind her, the storm began to close in like hungry jaws. The Defiance pulled away from the dying station, just as the first tendrils of the storm began reaching into the eye. Elena watched on the view screen as Research Station Theta 9 was swallowed by electromagnetic fire. The place where 42 people had waited to die now vanishing into the chaos like a bad dream at dawn. "Full power to engines," she commanded. "Yuki, find us a way out." "Working on it," Yuki replied. Her fingers flew across the navigation console. "The storm has shifted. The path we came through no longer exists. Then find a new path." "Commander, there is no new path. The storm has become a solid wall of destruction in every direction." Elena refused to accept defeat. She had not come this far to die in the final stretch. Somewhere in that chaos there had to be a weakness, a crack, something they could exploit. "Show me the storm on main view screen," she said. Full sensor overlay, the image appeared before her. Swirling bands of electromagnetic fury painted in false colors by the computer. Red zones were instant death. Orange zones were probably death. Yellow zones were merely dangerous. There was no green anywhere. The upper quadrant, Elena said, pointing at a section where the yellow seemed slightly less intense. What is that? Yuki examined the data. It is a region of lower electromagnetic density, probably caused by the interaction between two storm cells. But Commander, it is still far beyond safe parameters. But it is the best we have. Yes. Elena turned to face her crew. Marcus Cole at engineering, Sarah Chun at communications, Dr. Hassan monitoring the wounded in the cargo bay. These were the people who had followed her into the impossible. I need more power to the shields, she said. Everything we have. Marcus shook his head. Commander, we are already running at maximum. The reactor cannot give any more without risking a meltdown. Then we take the risk. Elena, Marcus said quietly, using her first name for the first time in years. If the reactor melts down, everyone dies. 300 colonists in cryosleep, 42 scientists we just rescued, our entire crew. Everyone. And if we stay here, what happens? Marcus had no answer for Thig Vorak rose from his console. There may be another way, he said. Human engineering is primitive compared to Kethrai standards, but your reactor design has one advantage. It is surprisingly resilient under manual control. What are you suggesting? Elena asked. If someone enters the reactor chamber and manages the power flow directly, bypassing all automatic safety systems, we could achieve a 30% increase in shield output. The radiation in that chamber would kill anyone within minutes, Dr. Hassan said. It would be suicide. Yes, Vorak agreed. It would be. Silence fell across the bridge. Everyone understood what was being suggested. Someone would have to die so that everyone else could live. Marcus Cole stood up slowly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a photograph. A young girl with his eyes smiled at the camera, frozen in a moment of pure happiness. Her name is Maya, he said. She is 7 years old. I promised her I would come home. He put the photograph in his chest pocket, over his heart. But I also promised her that I would be someone she could be proud of. If I walk away from this, if I let all these people die when I could have saved them, what kind of father would I be? Marcus, no, Elena said. Her voice cracked with emotion. There has to be another way. There is not. You know there is not. And we both know I am the only one with the skills to do this. He walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back. Tell Maya I love her. Tell her that her father died doing something that mattered. Elena wanted to stop him. She wanted to order him to stay. But she knew he was right, and she knew that taking this choice from him would be worse than letting him go. I will tell her, she promised. I will tell her everything. Marcus smiled. That same kind smile he had worn every day since Elena first met him. Then he was gone, walking toward the reactor chamber, and the death that waited there, the next 10 minutes were the longest of Elena's life. On the engineering console, she watched Marcus's vital signs as he entered the chamber. She watched the radiation levels spike beyond any survivable limit. She watched him work anyway, his hands steady despite the poison flooding his body. Shield output increasing, Sarah Chen reported. We are at 115%. 120. 130. Commander, I have a route, Yuki announced. It is rough and it will hurt, but I think we can make it. Do it. Punch us through. The Defiance surged forward. The storm attacked immediately, pounding the ship with everything it had. Hull plates buckled and groaned. Systems failed and came back online. Somewhere in the chaos, a child in cryosleep dreamed of sunshine and green grass. Shields holding, Sarah Chen shouted. Marcus is giving us everything he has. On the engineering console, Elena watched his heart rate climbing, his blood pressure dropping, his body failing system by system. But still he worked, still he fought, still he gave him the power they needed to survive. "Come on," Elena whispered. "Come on, Marcus. Just a little longer." The outer edge of the storm appeared on the view screen. Safety was so close. Just a few more seconds of hell. Port engine is failing, Yuki reported. "We are losing thrust. Compensate with starboard." "I am trying." "We are drifting off course." Another alarm screamed. "Hull breach on deck 6. Atmospheric loss accelerating." 10 seconds to structural failure, and then, like breaking through the surface of a dark ocean, the Defiance burst into clear space. Stars filled the view screen, beautiful and calm and impossibly far away from the nightmare they had just escaped. "We made it," Sarah Chun said. Tears streamed down her face. "We actually made it." Elena did not celebrate. She was watching the engineering console. Marcus Cole's heart rate was dropping. 40 beats per minute, 30-20, Marcus, she said softly. "Thank you." His voice came over the intercom, weak but somehow still warm. "Tell Maya. Tell her the stars are beautiful. Tell her I can see them from here." The heart rate monitor went flat. Elena closed her eyes and let the tears come. Around her, the crew mourned in silence. A hero had given everything so that strangers could live, but they had survived. Battered, broken, grieving, but alive. And now they had to carry that gift home. The U.E.'s Defiance limped into Concord Station Primus 3 days after escaping the storm. She was a wreck, barely holding together with emergency patches and desperate repairs. Her hull was scarred with burn marks and radiation damage. Her port engine was completely dead. She trailed smoke and sparks like a wounded animal dragging itself home, but she was flying. Against every prediction and probability calculation, she was still flying. Every dock in the station fell silent as the Defiance approached. Word had spread across the sector about the human ship that had done the impossible. Scientists and politicians and ordinary workers gathered at observation windows to watch her arrive. Concord Station Primus. "This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the U.S. Defiance requesting emergency docking," Elena said. Her voice was hoarse from exhaustion. She had not slept since leaving the storm. "Defiance, you are cleared for priority docking at Bay 1, came the reply. "Medical teams are standing by." Commander Vasquez, on behalf of the entire Galactic Concord, "Welcome home." Elena guided her wounded ship into the bay with careful hands. When the docking clamps engaged and the engines finally shut down, she sat back in her chair and allowed herself to breathe. They had made it. The airlock opened to reveal a crowd of hundreds. The dignitaries from a dozen species stood alongside medical personnel and news recorders. At the front of the group, a small Valori woman waited with tears streaming down her silver face. Elena recognized her. It was the Sarah, the elderly scientist they had rescued from the upper levels of the station. "Commander Vasquez," the Sarah said. Her voice trembled with emotion. "I have lived for 300 years. I have seen wonders across 1,000 worlds. But I have never witnessed anything like what you and your crew did. We just did what anyone would do," Elena said. "No. That is where you are. We asked the Galactic Concord for help. They calculated the odds and decided we were not worth saving. You calculated nothing. You simply came." The rescued scientists emerged from the Defiance one by one. Each of them was greeted by friends and colleagues who had already mourned them as dead. The station filled with the sound of reunions, of tears and laughter, and names spoken like prayers answered. Dr. Hazan supervised the transfer of wounded to the station's medical facilities. Yuki Tanaka collapsed into a chair and fell asleep within seconds. Sarah Chun hugged her wife, who had rushed to the station from their home on the nearby colony world, and in a quiet corner of the docking bay, Elena Vasquez sat alone with a photograph in her hands. A little girl smiled at her from the image, innocent and full of hope. "I have to tell her," Elena whispered. "I promised him I would tell her." Ambassador Thesson approached slowly. His silver skin had regained some of its color, but his eyes held a depth they had lacked before. "Commander, may I speak with you?" Elena tucked the photograph into her pocket. "Of course, Ambassador. I have submitted my report to the Valori High Council. I thought you should know what it contains." "And what does it contain?" Thesson was quiet for a moment. "It contains the truth. It says that humans are not the primitive species we believe them to be. It says that your people possess something we have lost over 10,000 years of calculated advancement. What is that? Heart, will? The stubborn refusal to accept what the universe tells you must be. We measure everything in probability and efficiency. You measure nothing. You simply act, because action is required." He paused. "My report recommends that the Valori begin learning from humanity, rather than trying to teach them. I believe it will change everything." Elena looked at him. "Will your council listen? After what happened here?" "Yes, they will listen. 42 of our finest scientists were saved by people who had nothing to gain and everything to lose. That is not a story that can be ignored." Over the next week, the story spread across the galaxy. News networks on 100 worlds broadcast images of the battered Defiance and interviews with rescued scientists. The name Elena Vasquez became known in languages that human tongues could not pronounce. The Galactic Concord awarded Elena the Medal of Extraordinary Service, the highest honor they could give. She accepted it on behalf of her crew, especially those who could not be there to receive it themselves. Marcus Cole was buried in space, as he had always wanted. His body was committed to the void surrounded by the stars he had loved. Elena spoke at the ceremony, her voice breaking as she described his sacrifice. Marcus Cole gave his life so that others could live. He did not calculate the cost or measure the benefit. He simply saw people in need and gave everything he had. That is what humanity means. That is who we are. 3 months later, Elena received a message from Earth. A video file from a woman named Sarah Cole, Marcus's wife. "Commander Vasquez, I wanted to thank you for the letter you sent. Maya reads it every night before bed. She says her daddy is a hero and that someday she wants to be just like him." The video showed a little girl with Marcus's kind eyes. She held the photograph he had carried into the reactor chamber, now framed and sitting on her bedside table. "My daddy saved everyone," Maya said proudly. "He was brave and strong, and he did something that mattered. I'm going to do something that matters too." Elena watched the video 17 times. Each time, she cried. The Defiance was repaired over the following months. New hull plates covered her scars. A new port engine replaced the one lost in the storm. But Elena refused to paint over the burn marks on her bow. "Those marks tell our story," she said. "They remind us what we can do when we choose courage over calculation." When the repairs were finished, Elena gathered her crew on the bridge. Many of the original team had returned. New faces filled the gaps left by those who had not survived. "Where to, Commander?" Yuki asked. Elena looked at the star chart. "Somewhere out there, someone needed help. Someone was waiting for rescue. Someone had been told that saving them was statistically inadvisable. Find me someone who needs us," she said. "That is our new mission. That is who we are now." The Defiance launched from Concord Station Primus with her crew intact and her purpose clear. She flew into the darkness, carrying the best of humanity with her, and somewhere in the vast reaches of space, other species began to tell stories about the humans who came when no one else would. The species that did not count the cost. The species that refused to abandon hope when the storm comes. They would say, Pray the humans come too, because humans would come. They always would. It was simply who they were.